Hello everybody and welcome to this playthrough for Master Division 4, the Wilderness Tournament here in Golf Clash, the game. The video is sponsored by Golf Clash and Playdemic. And before we start, make sure that you do hit the thumbs up button, also subscribe to the channel and turn on the notifications. You can get the Ultimate Tournament Guide for Master Division, the best guides on the market. We do have a pro and expert as well, as you can bundle it together as you please. Also, make sure that you check out the packages already today, as the beginning of the month it's always the best, as then you will get all the content for the whole month. Make sure you follow the info box on the right hand side to get the club distance adjustment, elevation adjustment, also what ball and club type I do suggest you to play with. Have in mind that those are all suggestions and you don't have to follow it if you don't want to, but there is always a plan behind it. So let's go to hole number 1. Alright, hole number 1, we start off with a Centurion. There's no need to spend a win 5 ball here in my opinion. So either a Centurion or a Kingslayer, 6 top spin, 3 left spin, and we play with Apoc 5+. Apocalypse level 7, top of the red ring by the rough line. Apocalypse 5 and 6, we do have 1/3 of the red ring at the top inside the rough, and then we do have Apocalypse 8, then we go the other way, which gives us instead a little bit of a gap between the red ring and the rough line. So we have 1/5, so 20% of the blue ring outside on the fairway. Adjust max plus 10, I would recommend to push your rings, because pulling the rings could be a problem depending on wind angle with the bushes and the trees and stuff like that. Hit perfect, you want to rather hit great left than great right. Apoc 7 and Apoc 8, a great right will still be safe. Apoc 5 and Apoc 6 with a worse accuracy will be some trouble, especially with a double great right. Now, 362 is what we got. But we are not really going to care about the yardage. We're going to care about pin check and fringe check, okay? So what we do here now from 362, we go to the, with the bullseye to the pin, and we see +5. We remember that because that we are going to use for our adjustment. Always 5 top spin and 3 left spin, with the ball guideline through the whole 2 green squares. And that is very important, because if you have the ball guideline shorter or longer, that's obviously becomes a difference of where you then put your target at. So then we're gonna have to correct our adjustment if that's gonna be a problem. Now, +5 pin check is gonna be 52% slider, 10% elevation, power 3 numbers, and that's for Falcon 7 and 6. Falcon level 8, we deduct 4% from that, so then we would have played that one 48% slider instead. And the reason I don't mention Thorn and Hornet here is because, you know, we can actually play this one with a Falcon 6, because we are not so dependent on a good ball guideline here as we're doing a rough bump. Again, free to play option, very solid, very simple, and a perfect ball, I would say, with the correct setup is gonna be in every single time. On hole number 2, we are going to play a rough bump. That is by far the best way to get this ball to drop. We're gonna play with quarterback and a power 2 ball to find absolute max distance. Add 3.5 bar backspin, 3 right spin, and put the target up to complete max. Once we have done that, we shall adjust maximum distance with a 15% over adjustment power 2 ball settings. And I keep the NASCAR ball here because, again, it's one of my favorite balls, and also a ball that you obviously keep the wind resistance 5. What you can do, what already players in the team and also followers has been doing, is to play with a Centurion or a Kingslayer, which is a win 4 obviously, but it is a possibility to play with that ball as well. What you will have to do though is to still set it up with a power 2 ball to make sure that you find the correct distance. We will hit the rough, and then the ball gets dead center for a lovely drop on hole number 2. Just to add, I've been hitting great left and great right, and I will still hit the rough. But obviously, if you do have a bunch of underpower or some curl or some overpower that might be accidental, but then that could cause you to miss the rough. So you need to be detailed when it comes to taking your shot and centering the ball. We come to hole number 3, which is a very difficult par 5 to get an albatross on. So my main focus here is to lock in the eagle with somewhat, at least some type of opportunity of an albatross. First, I do start with the bullseye just beside the rough line. And that's going to be the same position for every club, like Apoc 5, 6, 7, and 8. Then we add 2 bars of topspin. And we adjust max with minus 5% elevation. And the reason we use minus 5% elevation, even though it's not the true elevation, is to be able to keep the aim point with the bullseye just by the rough. And you can see there, we do have room for a great left and great right. And just to add that, I've hit great left and great right, and I have not clipped the rough. 366 yards, that's where we are going to land most of the times. And now we're gonna do a difficult second shot, because we're gonna first put our red ring by the rough line with Cataclysm level 7. Then we use 2 right spin and whatever top spin that makes the ball guideline go to the hole, like that. Once that is done, we are going to remove half a bar of topspin from what we then previously had. In this scenario here, I'm removing 0.8 bars of topspin, and that's the reason why we are going to miss low. Adjust max plus 10 with a small 1201 pull angles. We need to have a 1201 here to not go too far. But once again, we are not going to remove as much topspin as I did in the video. We need to remove only half a bar of topspin. So if we do have 4.5 bar topspin and 2 right spin, the ball guideline is the hole. Then we change to 2 right spin and 4 bars of topspin, just as an example. Perfect ball, and then the ball will bounce on the fairway, clip the rough, and then roll down towards the pin. Once again, we don't have topspin enough here, and that's why we do fall short with approximately 1.5 green square. So we need to do a little bit better in this scenario. But again, this is such a low percent alba chance in my opinion, but it will always be safe for an eagle, and we are only spending a luminary ball and not wasting any of our better balls on hole 3. For hole number 4, we do have a money shot incoming, and here we do want to start before, or like we're gonna find position before we add spin. That is absolutely crucial, because our only point that we're looking for is that is the second bounce that is just into the rough. Once we have found that, we're going to apply 2.1 left spin and 0.8 bars of top spin. 2.1 left spin is 2 left spin with 1 click extra. Now, I do push the rings, because otherwise that freaking tree, you can see that tree, or like the bush, that brown bush in the background, that is gonna cover the way that I'm pulling the rings. So that's why I'm pushing, to make sure that I'm getting the correct amount of rings. Max plus 15, power 0 ball number. Center the ball properly and hit perfect, and I do believe that this shot will drop more than it will miss. Obviously, there could be different wind angles, and we will, with a little bit more tailwind, or like, not as much crosswind as we have here on the video, then we will be adding some curl to help counteract for that. Obviously, that is all displayed and explained thoroughly in the guide. Hole number 4, very good chance. Hole number 5, we're going to go for green, and here I have been focused on one thing really, because this is a very simple hole, but if we're not taking into account the glitch roll on this hole, then we will be in trouble some of the times. I'm gonna talk about that in the end. 3.5 bar topspin, 2 right spin always. Red ring by the rough line to the left with Apoc 7, Apoc 5 and 6, 1/3 of the red ring outside the rough to the left, and when it comes to Apocalypse level 8, 1/5, so 20% of the blue ring outside the rough to the left. Max plus 10, we adjust, and we're gonna push up, and we're gonna push up a different plus yardage depending on what wind strength we are going to have. So 14.8, we push up just below plus 19. And then we go with 1.5 ball curl right, and we're gonna hit with overpower with a slower needle. A great left and a great right has here been fine, and even bad great left and great right has clipped the rough and then rolled out for a simple wedge. The wedge is played EB School, 20% elevation, power 5 numbers, just to have that said as well. So what I was looking for here when it comes to this glitch roll that I'm talking about is that if you come in with too much speed, which is very common if you do have a lot of topspin, is that you will roll over the green and into the back rough. So what we have done here in the team is to make sure that with the 3.5 bar topspin and the push-up method that we do have, regardless what wind angle you're gonna have, it's gonna be such a small risk of you rolling over the green with that glitch roll into the rough. So even if you get the glitch roll, you will still be able to stay before the rough. But obviously when it comes to send it shots, there is always a lottery aspect with it, so we cannot really say to 100%, but this is the best that we can do, and we are very pleased with this shot on hole number 5 for a safe eagle. Hole number 6 is the toughest of the holes that we do have in qualifying round in Master. And here I want you to be very careful. First and foremost, we're gonna set up the drive and we're gonna talk about some club options here in a bit. 5.8 topspin and 4 bars of side spin to the right. The reason I do choose 5.8 topspin is to be able to mimic the same topspin with Apocalypse 5, 6, 7 and 8. 1/5 of the white ring inside the rough to the right with Apocalypse level 7. Apocalypse level 8, we do have the white ring by the rough line. Apocalypse 5 and 6, half of the white ring inside the rough. Adjust max plus 10. Pay close attention to how many rings into overpower you are going. So if you go 2 rings into overpower when you do adjust your rings, which is something that will happen. It could also be 5 rings depending on what wind direction and what strength you're having. Then you're gonna add 2 rings more. So again, example, 2 rings into overpower equals 4 rings in total of overpower. 2 balls of curl to the right, so not max curl. Very important to have that in mind. If you go max, you're gonna get stuck into the rough all the time. And then we obviously want to hit perfect. A great left and a perfect is always going to be fine. When it comes to a great right, especially with a poke 5 and 6, have a risk of getting stuck into the rough. Then it is very important that you have packed the Amazon as a rough iron, because then you can use all the topspin to bounce before the rough and then roll it down towards the green area. So that is a very important club to pack, because we all can hit a bad great right. It happens even for myself. You may be wondering, why do I even attempt to hit the rough with a second bounce? Why don't I just go over the rough? It's because if I do go over the rough, we're gonna come into a certain angle that will then be covered completely by the sequoia trees. So if we're then trying to attack the pin, we're gonna hit the tree every single time. So we need to hit the rough, or and just to add on that, if you don't hit the rough, let's say that you misjudge the overpower for an example, then you will have to just play it down towards the green and just say screw it when it comes to the albatross and just take the safe eagle. Because once again, if you are in the wrong angle towards the green, you will hit that tree if you're trying to attack it. Attack the pin, we'll say. But if the drive goes as we want to, we're going to check first and foremost when it's your turn. What plus yardage is your sniper in? For me, it was +7. And when I mean with that, it's like exactly when it says my turn. Without me touching any club, it gives me a plus yardage. That plus yardage I'm going to use here for the second shot. 4 bars of left spin and whatever backspin that leaves the ball guideline 1 green square short of pin. Bottom of the white ring by the rough line, and +7 then equals 62% slider with a 30% elevation. If you hit the rough and roll out, you will still see this red ball guideline when you're trying to adjust. It's going to happen approximately halfway into your adjust. Have in mind that that's not going to destroy anything, because the wind is going to push ourselves away from that area, and that will in that case still be safe. So don't be worried about that. But in the end though, if you don't care about the albatross, you just want to have a safe eagle, move your target more right and use some left curl instead, and just land the ball on green and just move on to hole number 7. But again, this is a play for you that is designed to be able for us to actually go for the albatross if the drive is correct. But please have in mind, pack the Amazon and be careful about getting, especially if you go and not clip the rough, that you are not attacking the pin if so. So for hole number 7 here, I was thinking to lay up here and go with a short iron, but after having to test this drive with a bad great left and a great right and still ending up into the spot for a wedge, then we are gonna just send it here actually, because then we do have the fault margin on our side. Blue ring by the Sequoia tree to the left with a POC 7 at max, a POC 5 and 6, 1/3 of the blue ring inside the Sequoia tree to the left, and Apocalypse 8 has 75% of the 4th ring inside the Sequoia tree to the left. Adjust max plus 10, we push up to max always, and we are always going to use 5.8 topspin and 2 right spin, this to mimic the topspin that you have the possibility to use with an Apocalypse level 5. 2 balls of curl to the right, so this is not max curl, have that in mind. Try to hit perfect, and again, a great left and a great right will still hit the fairway. Or at least that's what it did in testing. And obviously, you know, if you have hit good, or you might have a wonky push-up or a bad pull angle, that could be not ending up in the way that we wanted to do. But at least you can see there in the end what we wanted to do is to roll down for a simple wedge. Now, you could see that I think it's the 3rd bounce that is not clipping the rough by the green area. So then we're going to play the second shot EB School with 20% elevation, power 5 numbers. But let's say that we would clip the rough with our 3rd bounce, which means we would stop much higher up on that fairway where we are now. Then we need to adapt and play 30% elevation EB School instead. And the reason for that is that where we are now compared to where we would be if we clip the rough with a 3rd bounce is that we will be on a much higher elevation. So therefore we need to add elevation to our EB School method to be able to drop it from there. And I always play this with no spin and trying to obviously hit perfect. And as with an Endbringer, a great left and a great right could go in, especially on short wedges. Hole number 7 is, in my opinion, a must eagle. For hole number 8, we're going to make it very, very simple here. We are going to play a no movement. Go to 4 backspin and 1 right spin. Once you get to 4 backspin, you remove 3 clicks of backspin. So what we want to is pretty much a heavy 3.8 backspin here for this shot. Minimum distance 5% over adjustment, power 1 ball settings is what we do play with this angle. I do recommend to add a little bit if we do have an angle that is a bit more headwind. Adjust is made, and as you see, I do play with a lavender ball. You can play with whatever power 0 to power 3 ball, just that it does have wind resistance 5 and side spin 1. But the reason I feel the lavender ball is good here is that the 1 side spin helps me in setting up spins, so I don't accidentally get more than 1 bar. This is a really great shot, very good chance for an hole-in-one on hole number 8. For hole number 9, we will present to you 2 options, where one we're gonna lay up, we're gonna play a free-to-play option, and one where we're going to send it. So we want to start by adding half a bar of topspin and 1.5 bar of side spin to the left. We do have, in this case, 1/5 of the 4th ring inside the rough to the left. If playing with Apocalypse 8, we do have the 4th ring aligned with the rough to the left. Apocalypse 5 and 6, half of the 4th ring inside the rough. Adjust max plus 10, then we go full curl. Even though it looks like it's gonna hit the tree, I've been hitting a double great right and I still didn't hit the tree. So you don't have to be concerned about that, is what I'm trying to say. Now we're getting up to around 350, and that's perfect because the second shot we're gonna start directly by adding max topspin and 3 right spin with our sniper. And once we have done that, we're going to move back, and now we are only going to focus on the ball guideline. The importance for us here is to have the ball guideline, the tip of it, being 1 green square short of pin. You can see it there on the screen. Once that is done, we're going to look at the plus yardage. We do have plus 2 yard mark, and that's then going to be, it's going to equal a slider. It's going to be 81% slider with a 5% elevation, power 3 numbers. You can see also on my pull angle here that I'm using a very strong 1201, and the reason we do that is to make sure that we pull ourselves back far enough so we're not gonna roll too fast and stuff like that. So that pull angle is crucial, and I would say that the pull angle is what most likely will make it or break it here if you do hit perfect, we'll say, because sniper, as always in Master, is gonna be very difficult to hit perfect. So in the end, if you do hit perfect, make sure that you have done everything else correct. So this is a good chance, but again, hitting perfect with sniper in Master is difficult, so that's going to be the only issue here on hole 9, option 1. For those that do want to go a little bit more aggressive, we are going to present to you a way of getting over to the final fairway and leave ourselves out for a falcon, or a short iron is easier to have been said. Look at the rough line there between the dark and the bright rough. That is where we do want to put the blue ring with Apocalypse level 7. When it comes to Apocalypse level 5 and 6, 1/3 of the blue ring is going to overlap that line, and Apocalypse level 8 is going to have 20% of the 4th ring overlapping that line to the right. Adjust max plus 10, then we're going to push up. When it comes to 19 miles per hour, we're going to push up just before plus 10. And here I'm going to use 2.8 backspin and 4 bars of side spin to the left. Max overpower with slow needle, try to hit perfect, and we're going to obviously then also, as seen on the video, go full curl. We bounce on the fairway over to the final fairway here and put ourselves up for a nice position for a short iron. The problem, or I would say the negative part with a short iron here, is that pulling the rings is gonna be kind of difficult due to the slope. So we need to have that in mind, like comparing the first option where we do play with a sniper and here playing with a short iron, what difficulty would we be able to handle the best? So here I'm having top of the white ring by the start of the fringe. Ball guideline should be 2 green squares short of hole, very important, so I'm adding the top spin needed to get the ball guideline to there. Now from plus 10, in the video here, I do play 96% slider, 10% elevation, power 5 ball settings. So what I would say here is that I would like you to play 94% slider, 10% elevation, power 5 ball numbers. And that I do based on the mist that we do have here. It gets the zoom in and it has a nice speed, but just taking a 360 around the hole is obviously very unfortunate. So once again, to summarize hole number 9, the drive here with a side spin 4 power 5 ball is most definitely going to be a drive that's going to be consistent enough to get you to short iron range. But then again, pulling the rings is going to be a lot of rings. It's going to be on a downhill slope, which is very difficult to be accurate with. Then we do have the sniper, which has less probability to be hit perfect, but it's a very simple setup and adjust. So you have to decide what you want to do. You have 2 options here to choose between. Thank you so much everybody for watching this playthrough for Master Division with the qualifying round win here for the Wilderness Tournament in Golf Clash the game. Get the ultimate tournament guides for Master or Pro and Expert, or bundle it together in whatever way you want on patreon.com/golfclashtommy, link directly in the description down below. Video sponsored by Golf Clash and Playdemic. Thank you once again for watching and good luck in your Golf Clash game.